We all know so much about the world outside us, but when it comes to what's inside, we all know so little. Majority of people either don't know about how the human mind works, or even if they know, then they have the wrong idea about it. So, today we are going to discuss neuroscience and human intelligence fundamentals. So, the first question is, what is neuroscience? As you can read, it is the scientific study of human brain and underlying nervous system, which requires you to understand fundamentals of neuron and neural circuit with their emergent properties. So today we are going to discuss about a lot of things. So the first one is reality. We live in an egocentric world, which means we consider our perception, senses to be an ultimate truth, that is ground reality. However, our reality is just a window given to us with what we can see is a small slice of reality. So what we perceive is not necessarily to be true. We are also going to discuss what our human brain is made up of. How does it works? What's till the last? Because what good our knowledge is if it doesn't have any practical application. So in the end, we are going to discuss how you can benefit from this knowledge and what role can you play in neuroscience. So how do we perceive reality? As I have already discussed, the way you see the world, it is just a small representation of the universe around us. And by no way your understanding of the world is universal. It is quite possible that the person with whom you had the last contact with have a complete different perception of the world than you. We will discuss this in detail in the upcoming sessions. So coming back to this video's topic, reality is just a narrow window given to us, a representation of the universe. For instance, visible light consists of a very small slice of the complete electromagnetic spectrum. We can view only 0.0035% of all the electromagnetic spectrum. So imagine how vivid and vast the world is and how small our window is. That 0.0035% of the spectrum consists of all the light and color we can see as depicted on the screen. So let's understand this with the help of few examples. Snake can see very well even in the dark. However, you cannot. Snakes can view even in infrared. Why? Because they need it. At the time of dark when they are out to hunt the prey, they need it. Similarly, bee. This is a bee. And on the right you can see how the world looks from the bee's eye. They need to see in ultraviolet region. Why? Because they need to view flower and how much they are filled with nectar, because they depend on nectar for the food. In our perception, the colors are not so much vivid that we can guess, okay, inside this flower this is the amount of nectar, but bees can. So they need to see in ultraviolet region. So this is the vision of the bee. You can see how different it is from ours. A knife fish cannot see anything at all. For it, the complete perception of the world is how electric fields bends around the fish. This is called electroreception. Now imagine sensing the world like that. If there is a conductor around you, you will automatically get to know it. Color and vision won't make sense to you if you were a night fish. You might all have already known about this, like how bats perceive the world. That is, by relying on sonar. You also rely on waves, which are called electromagnetic waves. And bats also rely on waves that are sound waves. The way it happens is same. You rely on light to reflect back from the surface, and they rely on sound to reflect back. It's just that depending on sound waves gives bat an advantage. Sound waves are slow in propagation, which allows bat's brain to have enough time to calculate precise position of the object. Whereas you can only make a mere guess about the distance and position with your eye, but the bats are very precise. For a bat, ability to see color and light doesn't make any sense. Just the way it doesn't matter for us to precisely locate any object. So, what this world really is? The whole reality consists of three things. First, the properties that we can directly measure, such as senses coming from the five sense organs like color, taste, smell, sound, touch. Second is properties that we can indirectly measure, such as the emergent properties like acceleration, speed, gravity, or the properties which we can measure by the man-made equipments. However, I consider man-made equipment also to be the emergent properties. Take for example, we use microscope to see atoms, which again rely on our sense of eyes. Same goes for measuring cosmic rays, gravitational waves. All these data depends on the changing something, some parameters which we can directly observe with our human senses. Last are the properties which we cannot measure. We might be able to measure them when the technology advances, but as of now, we can't. Now here comes the important part. We are surrounded by lots of information and data, and our brain is just a pattern finding machine. Our brain works continuously for 24/7, piecing data together and trying to make sense out of it. Example. So let me prove this with the help of few examples. So here is the image. In the image, you see two tiles having A and B written over it. Which one do you think is darker? Look at it for 3 seconds. What do you think? Is A darker than B? Yes, majority of people say A is darker than B. But is it? Or is it your brain trying to find pattern? Actually, the tiles on A and B have the same color. As you can see, these horizontal tiles are all light in color. And then there is the shadow from this green cylinder falling over this. These two information are enough for your brain to assume that B is also lighter. But this is not the case. A and B tiles are of the same color. See? This is the actual reality. Now proceeding to example 2. What do you see in the image? Stare it for 5 seconds. Do you see anything? Nobody ever did. Now, stare this image for another 5 seconds. Now that your brain knows the pattern, it cannot unsee it. See for yourself. You must be still seeing the same image over this. So now we know our brain is a pattern finding machine based on the information it collects. Now the question comes, what if pieces of representation are missing? Our brain keeps trying to find the pattern and approximate the new information based on the previous data. Hence, throughout our life, our brain does two tasks. First, it finds a pattern. Second, it performs the guesswork. Let's understand this with the help of an example. This is an example of a black and white image. Information about the color from the image is missing. But now see. Now you must be seeing a colored image. But is it really a colored image? Or your brain doing the trick? Yes, your brain is doing the trick. It is just a black and white image with colored lines on it. Let's zoom in. Your brain takes the hint from the stripes and fills in with the missing data on its own. Now, do you still believe on your perception of reality? Is anything even real? If you still have doubts, let's understand it with a proper example. In this video, we have static balls and these balls have same color. We will just change the lines of color over the ball and see how your brain will change its perception. Now you must be seeing red, green, blue. They're all different kinds of colors on the ball. However, these all balls are of same color. It's just your brain filling the different data in different balls according to the context. So, our brain always finds a pattern in the data it receives from the five senses. It also approximates the new data with previous experience. Hence, our brain is a pattern finding machine and performs guesswork all the time. Now let's get deeper into how all this happens. Our central nervous system is made up of many individual neurons working together in synchronization. This we have a typical neuron and how it looks like. The extension on the top of the neuron is called dendrite. It receives electrochemical stimulation from other neurons and propagates it through the body of the neuron. Spherical part of the neuron is called soma. It contains nucleus support which supports the chemical processing of the neuron required for production of neurotransmitters. Axon is a long, slender projection of a neuron. They conduct the electrical impulse and acts as a primary transmission line of nervous system. Last are the synaptic terminals, which converts electrical signal into chemical substances. Our central nervous system also consists of specialized neurons. These nerve cells interact with external environment to collect the data or the information. The way their structure is, it is specialized to the tasks they perform. On the screen you can see different receptors that we humans have. For example, the fluffy neuron on the right is made in such a way that it can detect pressure changes. The structure is similar to a spring, and neuron that supports hearing it has a structure which can help picking up vibration from the air. Now let's dive deeper into with a detailed example. A human eye consists of densely packed visual receptors called cones. The retina consists of 7 million of these cone cells, and these are of 3 types. These 3 types of cone cells gets activated based on the electromagnetic wave of 3 different wavelengths falling over it. Say for instance, if a red light falls on the retina, then the red cone gets activated, and same goes for blue and the green cones. Apart from neurons and receptors, neurotransmitters also play an important role in perception. Neurotransmitters are responsible for communication between neurons, and then they do so by releasing electro-triggered chemicals from synaptic terminals. There are many different types of neurotransmitters, and they all have different purposes. More than 200 unique types of chemical messengers have been identified so far. For instance, dopamine is one type of neurotransmitter which is responsible for reward system. It is the core of reward motivated behavior for a human brain. Now let's understand the whole process in detail with the help of an animation.
A chemical synapse is a special junction between 2 neurons that allows them to communicate without being physically connected. A synapse has several structures. The presynaptic neuron ends in a small bulb called the presynaptic terminal. The postsynaptic terminal membrane is directly adjacent, separated by a small space called the synaptic cleft. An action potential causes voltage-gated calcium ion channels to open in the presynaptic terminal. The influx of calcium ions prompts synaptic vesicles to release neurotransmitters via exocytosis. This neuron is releasing acetylcholine. The neurotransmitter quickly diffuses across the synaptic cleft. 2 acetylcholine molecules bind with one ligand-gated sodium channel at the postsynaptic membrane, opening the channel. When enough sodium ion channels open, the postsynaptic cell depolarizes and the action potential continues along the neuron.
So the crux of the animation was that the communication between 2 different neurons happens based on the neurotransmitters, and inside the neuron the electrochemical pulse travels as an action potential. So these sodium ions are responsible for the neurotransmission between 2 different synaptic terminals. If you are really enjoying this video so far, then please do subscribe this channel for more amazing stuff. Now that we know about the building blocks, let's find out how these blocks give rise to the phenomenon of human intelligence and consciousness. Human brain is made up of 100 billion nerve cells, suspended in an ionic fluid. When our receptors interact with a real-world phenomena or a particle, these specialized neurons, aka receptors, generate signals for release of neurotransmitters. From now on, we will refer to them as stimuli. Any event that evokes a reaction in an organ or a tissue is called a stimuli. These signals evoked by a stimuli travel to the human brain through the network of neurons. When a stimuli is received for the first time, new connections are made, and upon receiving multiple stimuli, previous connections are strengthened. At any given instance, a neuron can exist only in 2 states. First is exhibitory, active or firing state, in which it generates an electrical impulse. Second is the inhibitory or the rest state, when the neuron does nothing at all. The frequency of the electrical impulse may vary based on the different circumstances, which we will cover in upcoming slide with the help of an animation. At any given instance in time, based on stimulus received from different senses, some neurons are in firing state and some are in rest state. So this represents one set of information. At other instances in time, different neurons will be at firing state and different neurons will be at rest state. That will represent different set of information. Different areas of brain is responsible for representing or processing different sets of tasks or stimuli. For example, temporal lobe stores memory and performs hearing tasks. It also assists you in understanding the languages. Neurons in cerebellum are responsible for action and motion. Frontal lobe does the work of problem solving, critical thinking, emotions and reasoning. So different areas of brain have different associated tasks with it. When you receive stimuli from an external environment, some of the specialized receptors evokes a chain reaction which resonates to our brain. And some neurons start firing in an electrical impulse, which is one state of brain representing information for that set of stimuli. Different stimuli set different state of neurons firing in impulse. This rhythm of neurons give rise to the human intelligence and consciousness. The frequency of the generated electrical impulse vary based on different state of human experience. When we are in learning or problem solving state, electrical impulse resonates in the range of 30 to 200 Hz. These are called gamma waves. Similarly, there are beta, alpha and theta waves. They all are responsible for different state of human experience. For instance, neurons in delta wave range pulsate between the frequency of 0.5 to 4 Hz, which is when a person is in deep sleep or repair mode. Let's understand this in a detail. This is our primary visual pathways. Light from the left side of the visual field falls on the right side of the retina, and light from the right side of the visual field falls on the left side of the retina. Based on amount of red, green and blue light on your retina, some of the cone cells starts firing and they release special neurotransmitters which causes a chain reaction, and the impulse is then propagated all the way back to your rear side of your visual cortex. With visual information from the right side of the retina going to the right side of the primary visual cortex, and visual information from the left side of the retina going on the left side of the primary visual cortex. So this means left side of the visual field is processed on the right side of the brain, and right side of the visual field is processed on the left side of the human brain. Visual cortex is what which enables you to differentiate between different shapes, edges, face or recognizing things in general. It is also responsible for all the color perception using guesswork. Many of you must be wondering, if we can only detect red, blue and green light, then how does our brain recognize light of different colors? The answer is really simple. In the starting we have told already that brain performs the guesswork. So based on the amount of different cones fired in a local region, our visual cortex guesses the color. So visual cortex finds a pattern in shapes or edges and also fill in the color with the guesswork. Without the brain having capacity to fill in the missing data, we wouldn't be able to observe other color, since we wouldn't have possessed the required physical capability. Since we only have red, green and blue cone cells, so if the brain wouldn't perform the guesswork based on the amount of light it receives, we wouldn't be able to see any color other than these three. Knowing something is only good until we can apply it. So question comes, how can we benefit? Whenever we receive any stimuli, some specific networks of neurons start firing in different locations of the human brain, and it represents one instance of information. For every instance, there will be a unique pattern of neurons firing up. Location and as well as frequency of the firing neuron differs. Hence, when it comes to extracting data on firing of neurons, there are two domains. First is spatial domain, where we can extract data with high accuracy in space, that is, getting the position or location of firing neuron. Second is temporal domain, that is, when does the neurons fire up and their pulsating frequencies. Either we can measure data accurately in temporal domain, that is measurement in time, or we can measure the location of firing neurons accurately in spatial domain. Due to nature of the data being observed, you cannot do both at the same time. There is a trade-off. Resolving location is a time-consuming and compute power dependent task. However, fluctuation or pulsation happens too fast. So when you want to measure accurately in time domain, you lose accuracy in space domain. So let's get to different sources of data. First is, we can record electrical activity of the brain. Electroencephalogram, EEG. EEG is used for measuring electrical activity of human brain. It gives data that is accurate in time domain. In this method, we put a bunch of non-invasive electrodes on your head to measure electrical fluctuation directly from your brain. The data that comes out looks like this. We get several wave-like data from each electrode. One wave represents data from one electrode. The data comprises of amplitude or peak oscillating over a fixed mean. Second method is measuring data accurately in spatial domain. It relies on the measuring of blood flow. We use a bulky setup called MRI scanning for the same. When neurons fire in a certain region, blood flow is increased to that region of the brain. So by aligning proton spin with magnetic field, we measure the location of blood flow. This is how the data looks like. This data is dependent on the flow of blood, which is a slow process. Hence, it is only accurate in space and not time. Another breakthrough method is by measuring hemoglobin flow. This is not as accurate as EEG in measuring data in time domain and not accurate as MRI in space domain. But there is another perspective. We can also say it is more accurate than EEG in spatial domain and is better than MRI in time domain. In this method, we incident light in near infrared region on different part of your brain. This is how an EEG setup looks like. There are bunch of transmitters which release light wave in near infrared region, and there are receivers. When there is hemoglobin in the path of light, it bends it, and by the amount of light it bends, we can calculate data in time and space domain. So here is the graph which depicts different data collection modules. As you can see, EEG is really good at temporal domain, whereas MRI is good in spatial domain. And then comes FNIRS. They are good in both domain, but not certainly the best. By the end of this year, we would be outsourcing various brain-computer interface parts from all around the world. And then we would be launching some cool devices manufactured in India by the end of this year on Amazon. And by next year, we would be launching many cool devices which would be completely made in India. So if you also want to have some cool gadgets, then do subscribe to this channel and follow us on Instagram for further news and updates. Links are in description. So final question we would be addressing today is, what role can you play using your data science skills? Brain-computer interfaces have huge potential for application in cybersecurity. Human brain encodes any experience you go through using 100 billion nerve cells, where some neuron starts firing up in an electrical impulse. This pattern is unique for every individual. Same stimuli or an experience sets different neuron firing in any two different individuals. Hence, it can be used in biological encoding of confidential data. Your brain signal for a particular stimuli will be unique for you. So you could prepare encoder and decoder for your signals. We have also done one such project already. So subscribe to this channel as we will be covering that project in upcoming videos. It can also be used in authorization. Imagine how cool it would be if you could just think of logging in for signing into Facebook, Instagram or other accounts. And when someone other than you try to do the same, that is logging into your Facebook or other account just by thinking, then it won't work. There are some really cool applications of BCI in Internet of Things. We would be importing various spare parts from all around the world and launching some cool IoT gadgets on Amazon, which would be manufactured in India. So subscribe to this channel and follow us on all social media platforms to stay tuned. So one example for BCI in telepathic robotic control is this. So you can see a person is controlling a robotic arm just by thinking. See how cool is that?
Our technology can really control almost anything using just your brain activity. We have an artificial intelligence that I invented called Neurable. The way I created Neurable was actually during my PhD program at the University of Michigan. The way that it works is we basically send specific commands to different devices based off of the person's brain activity.
And this was the first product inspiration that we aim to launch this year. Brain-computer interfaces can greatly enhance our AR/VR experience. This is another great example of brain-computer interfaces, where a person controls his laptop just by thinking. See how cool is this? Another product inspired from this video is also currently under development, and it would be far better than this. That product under development would be completely made in India and will be launched by next year at really reasonable prices. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe to this channel and follow us on all social media platforms to stay tuned with all the news and updates about us. This is another great example of what neuroscience and computer science today are capable of. A wonderful TED Talk by Greg Gage. Links are in description down below.
That we can do is copy your brain signals going out to your hand and inject it into your hand so that your hand will move when your brain tells your hand to move. And so in a sense, she will take away your free will and you will no longer have any control over this hand, okay? You with me? Alright, so I'm going to find your ulnar nerve, which is probably right around here. You don't know what you're signing up for. You come up with So now I'm going to move away and I'm going to plug it into our human-to-human interface over here. Okay, so Sam wants you to squeeze your hand again. Alright, do it again. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to hook you up over here so that you get this. It's going to feel a little bit weird at first. It's going to feel like when you lose your free will and someone else becomes your agent, it does feel a bit strange. So I want you to relax your hand. All right, and Sam, you're with me. All right, so you're going to give it a squeeze. I'm not going to turn on this. Go ahead and give it a squeeze. All right. So now, are you ready to go? Okay, so I've turned it on. So go ahead and turn your hand. Do you feel that a little bit? We're going to do it again. A little bit. Okay, so relax. Don't hit it again. Okay. Oh, perfect. All right, so relax. Do it again. All right, so now. All right, so right now, your brain is controlling your arm and it's also controlling his arm. So go ahead and just do it one more time. All right, so that's perfect. So now, what would happen if I took over my control of your hand? And so just relax your hand. What happens? Nothing. Why not? Because the brain has to do it. Now you do it again. All right, that's perfect. All right, well, thank you guys for being such a good sport. This is what's happening all across the world, electrophysiology. We're going to bring out the neural revolution. Thank you.
A lot of people ask me, where do you think the technology is heading in next 10 to 15 years? I say, just go and watch this Black Mirror episode called Striking Vipers. This is where we would be in next 10 to 15 years.
Amazing.
Daddy, said you're gonna raise your son.
If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, then you should do it now, because in the next video I will be releasing the practical part of one of the project that we did on brain-computer interface. So you can also learn to classify human brain data. I would also do a tutorial on hardware and data collection part of BCI interface. That is how you can collect the brain data. Third is, we would be releasing a lot of tips, tutorials and guide in data science which can assist you in doing such great projects. Fourth is, we would be launching cool gadgets that would be manufactured in India by the end of the year and that would be available on Amazon. Last is, we will be releasing amazing made in India BCI devices next year with which you can control your computer just by thinking. So subscribe us on YouTube, press the ring bell and do follow us on other social media platforms to stay updated.